fill in the blank. You're not getting any younger, so
You're not getting any younger, so just take one step toward the desire of your heart. It may be scary, but you will be okay and you will survive. And not taking the step toward your true heart's desire is essentially leaving the world without your greatness.
hey, you. Yes, you. Welcome to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast, a podcast for people who want to disrupt their lives for a good reason, to make it count. I'm your host, Jen Glantz, and every week I'll drop a new episode with stories from real people just like you, who woke up one morning and decided to make big changes, starting with small things. We'll cover topics like entrepreneurship, love, failure, and self-care. Hey, you're not getting any younger, so let's make this an adventure. Ready? Today's episode is brought to you by Jen and Juice Coaching by yours truly. For the past 5 years, I've worked with over 100 people to help them feel, well, less stuck. Whether you're looking to change careers, start a side hustle, or just get a strategy for your life, head on over to jenglantz.com/coaching and you can find out about my 1-hour coaching specials that will help you feel like you can finally cross those things off your to-do list and start whatever kind of project, life change, or dream that you have. Hey, any youngers, it's me, Jen Glantz, back with a brand new episode for you today. Look, I'm just going to get right into who our guest is because it was the most fascinating interview I've done in a while. Why, you might ask? Because I talked to a psychic. Not just a psychic, but a psychic coach. Mari Roberts is a psychic coach and a life mentor, a healer with 15 years of experience in the corporate and nonprofit world, and she uses her intention to bring her gifts to help you transform your life in a more joyful, purposeful, and expansive way. I could talk to Mari forever, but I didn't. Instead, I asked her only the most burning and pressing questions that I think you're going to want to know about. Everything from how to tap into your intuition, how to understand the pings that are happening all around us, what it means to be your higher self, and more. I have a feeling you're going to enjoy this episode, and if you do, make sure you subscribe, you rate, you review this show so that I can continue to bring on incredible guests just like Mari. And also, come hang out with us in the secret You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group, end the year on a good note, and join us there. There's a tremendous amount of people in that group waiting to say hello and connect with you. I can't wait till next week. We have a solo episode coming up then. Until then, all my love, Jen Glantz. In the very first question I'm going to ask you is, how would you describe who you are and what you do to a person you just met at a party?
Oh my goodness, that is such a good question. How would I describe myself and what I do? So I would describe myself as a psychic who happens to also be a life coach. So when you put that all together, I'm a psychic life coach. And what I do is help you to truly uncover your passions, to be the person that you desire to be, the person that is aligned with your soul calling, your true calling, not the what people think you're supposed to do calling.
You are somebody that I would love to meet at a party, just because when you say psychic and when you say coach, the blend of that is incredible. And we've all heard of life coaches before, but how does it make it different that you are also a psychic? How does that change the experience when people work with you?
That's such a good question. I love that. I think there's a couple of things. One is that I still have a corporate background, so it's not just super woo, as people will say, like woo woo, or so mystical that it's not tangible. It's very practical. So I think the piece that I would say that makes me different is I am able to understand your energy and tap into your energy. And we do actual readings, and I'm able to connect with your your higher self and what's in for your best interest. And you're not always getting answers that are future forward. So I'm not a future forward kind of psychic. I'm not a medium. I don't see dead people. So everything is about the present, and it's validating the present, and it's giving you tools and resources that are not always, um, you know, go and read 5 books on X, Y, and Z, but it can also be learning how to actually understand what's showing up, learning actually what's may have happened to you as a child. So I can tap into like your energy and I can tap into your emotions. So I may be able to tap into your energy at a specific age that is what brings you to the place where you are now. So if you have a block, for example, it's I can say, hey, I'm getting the sense at this age something may have happened, or I see X, Y, and Z. And many a times that is related to what's blocking you from moving forward today. And sometimes just even having awareness and knowing what it is creates freedom.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I think also we push away so many traumatic experiences and moments in our life, and we don't really remember or realize how they come back and play with how we are and our energy and just how we deal with situations. So that is fascinating. And I know people listening are going to want to know, how did you realize that you had these psychic abilities? Is that even how you call it or say it? But how did you realize that you were a psychic and that you had this special capability that a lot of people might not have?
So, first and foremost, we are all intuitive and we all have access to our intuitive abilities. It's just how much work you're willing to put into it and how aware you are to tap into that. And so, what I always kind of, when I tell the story, apparently I've always been psychic, I just didn't know it. And so, as a little girl, um, I want to say I was between probably like 5, 6, 7 years old. I don't really remember the actual age. Um, was the first time I remember seeing, I called them the Star Trek people in my doorway. And I just knew they were protecting me and I was never afraid of them. And that was it. And then I saw a made for TV Dracula, Disney Dracula, was terrified, woke up in the middle of the night and saw something on my bed, which I later realized is probably like a spirit guide, but I didn't know. And I was terrified and I slept with the light on forever after that. Well, not forever, but I slept with the light on a nightlight for many years. And that transitioned to me having very, very vivid dreams. And when I say vivid dreams, and those people who are listening who may also have vivid dreams, my invitation to you is to get curious because you probably are more intuitive than you realize and or may have gifts. Um, but I have very, very vivid dreams, and it's almost like movie scenes. And that is apparently a sign. And I always say apparently because I still sometimes just don't believe that this is the gift that I was born with. Um, it still sinks in sometimes. So apparently, vivid dreams are another sign that you have psychic gifts. So this was always around. I just didn't know it, and I never spoke about it. I never thought it was something that was abnormal. I don't know what I was thinking. I was a little kid. I didn't think it was weird to have beings, guarding my door. I don't. Um, and so as I got older, probably I want to say it was 2015 when my dad passed away. One of my brother's really good friends is an intuitive, and she literally made a side comment to me about my skin being really nice. And for some reason, I just had this urge to find out more about her and go down this rabbit hole. So my other sort of tidbit of insight for people is, listen to the pings, listen to those little nudges and intuitions because it's usually guiding you somewhere. She was the first person who told me I was empathic. Um, and I just thought, again, of course I'm empathic. I'm a caring person, but it was that opening to understanding that there was more to it. It was a little bit deeper. So I'd say then from there, when I moved up to the Pacific Northwest from California, um, I knew that I was here for a reason. I didn't know what it was. I assumed it was for my career, my corporate career. And lo and behold, it was the unfolding and uncovering of my psychic gifts. And I reached out to a woman who does shadow work. And that was, again, another one of those situations where a ping led me to finding her. I was at a florist who was just an amazing floral designer. And I again, started following her on Instagram. She posted about someone's wedding, and I just had this urge to follow this woman and find out more about this woman because I had been really interested in shadow work. I just didn't know much about it. And, again, fast forward, run into this woman, reach out to her. She happens to be a shadow worker. I start to do work with her. She also says to me, I'm intuitive, and I say the same thing. I've heard that I'm empathic. I get it. And she invited me to a meetup with other people who are also intuitive to just practice my skills. And that's truly how it started and how it evolved. And my guides were very, very adamant that I'm not intuitive and I'm psychic. And I fought that. And then I decided that there's no more fighting. When you hear it enough and it keeps coming up to say, you're psychic, you're not intuitive, um, that's that's when you just begin to own it, and it helps you to also become more what is the word I'm looking for, authentic and really true, like owning who you really, really are, and not, again, um, staying small or in the shadow because it sounds scary to say psychic and it sounds safe to say intuitive, right? Hopefully that answered your
Fascinating.
question.
Yes. And I'm writing down so many things. I have just some questions about some of the words you were using,
Yeah.
the word intuitive. So I want to really break down what that means. I feel like I am somebody who is very in touch with not only my gut and understanding, okay, what is I'm really trying to understand in a situation. I also feel like sometimes when I walk into a situation, I'm able to really figure out who a person is and what's going to happen. I've always thought that maybe I was intuitive, but I want you to break down what that really means and how a person could know if they are intuitive. I'm sure it's a loaded question, but I'm curious.
So I would say, again, we're all intuitive. So it's just paying attention and honing in. It sounds like, yes, you are very intuitive, and um, it takes practice. Everything takes practice, right? But it's trusting your gut, having the trust in what you're feeling, having the trust in what you're seeing. It sounds like, just with your example, you walk into a room and you can sense, like, hey, this person is a joker. and and maybe even making a note about it, right? And saying,
Yes.
okay, on this date I had this feeling. And what shows up in your body? Do you get sensations? Is it just a gut feeling? Because some people, it's not a gut feeling. They might get a tingle up the back of their neck, or you get goosebumps. So paying attention to that and trusting it, and you don't have to tell anybody. You can just keep it to yourself and then allow things to validate for you. um, what I was told for the difference between being psychic and intuitive is that um, psychic is sort of like that next level. Psychic is this deeper sense of knowing than intuitive. Like intuitive, you can grow it and build on it, and psychic is just sort of um, innate. But even with that, you still have to practice. I still have to practice. I have to still hone my own craft of, you know, tapping into, my own knowing, as well as whoever I'm working with, their higher self. And as I practice, I get more information. New things show up. you know um, Originally, when I first started, I can see, so I can see, hear, feel, and know. So when I first started, I speak in not the clairvoyance or claircognizant, because I always feel like that feels very unattainable. And when you can just break it down to, can you see in your mind's eye? Can you hear? Can you feel? Can you know? And so when I first started, I really could see and know and feel. And it wasn't until well, I say more recently, but more recently, in the term of my doing this work, I could really more clearly hear. So it's always practice. It truly is.
You also mentioned the word pings, and are those understanding, when you're in a situation that you call a coincidence, that it's not a coincidence, that you were meant to be there? What does that word really mean?
For me, it's that internal knowing. It's that internal, sometimes you hear it as a nudge. I remember many years ago, I'm going to probably date myself. Oprah was talking about something and she was saying, first it starts off as a whisper and then it goes into being a tap and then it's a brick on your head. And the ping usually starts off as that whisper that, and for you, right, it sounds like it starts off as you get this little gut little reaction and it's like for some reason I keep seeing you go like it doesn't smell right, something's wrong.
I
you
know,
know
I'm like whisper. For me, it's a scream, but yeah.
and that is your intuition. And um, for many of us, when it becomes the brick on our head, it's because we haven't been able to pay attention or we haven't been paying attention to the pings. And so that's what I'm saying. We all get that inner knowing. And if you don't listen to it, it does become usually some kind of drastic thing that makes you slow down or something that, you know, a traumatic breakup or it could be you lost your job or you blew up at that person. It can be so many different things for so many different people, but the initial little whisper is that ping.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like I'm a weird combination of intuitive and stubborn. I work against myself sometimes, and I think that because I do that, I fight the truth. And I have a feeling a lot of people do that as well, especially when they work with you and they're reaching that higher self. They fight the reality of what they're supposed to be and their purpose and all of that. Why do you think people fight the truth so much?
There's such a great question. You're so good at this. I would say that fear can be a blocker, especially when it's something that's true to your heart and true to your core. It can be so fearful. And so if you don't face it or you don't go for it, so if it is a passion, if you want to start a business, if you want to change careers, if you have a dream of writing, but you're fearful of that response, that's going to be a blocker sometimes for you to take the step forward. Because what if people don't like it? What if people don't like you? All those things, that the what ifs that come up. So I'd say that is a big piece, is fear. And I'd say the other thing sometimes is, and I see this a lot, is the shoulds. I shouldn't do this. I should do that. I should. I used to be a recruiter years ago, and not that many years ago, but years ago. And you hear so many students say, well, I became a business major because my parents said I really should do this thing and do business. And the reality is, I wanted to study art history because my passion is in history. And by the way, you can still get a job with art history. You can still do something with art history. You can actually still go into finance and be an art history major, depending on what you're interested in, right? And so, following what's true to you versus the shoulds is what usually creates the blocks.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And I'm so fighting with fear all the time, fear of rejection, fear of what if it's not good enough. And it holds you back. And, I think the last thing I wanted you to find is the idea of higher self. What does that mean for a person? And what does that look like?
Oh boy, you've got such good questions. It's good. I love it. Um, so when I think about higher self, I think about how do I want to say this? Because everyone connects differently, right? So first and foremost, whatever you call it, God, universe, source, you may consider God to be trees, you may consider it to be the ocean, whatever that is. Then when you think about yourself, we are in this human body, in this human form, but we still are a soul. We still are more than just this brain and this mess of, a body that we are. And that higher self is your soul. It is that like deeper connected place that is, I would look at it as almost like, if I was able to close my eyes and envision, my higher self is like this, the being that's outside of me, the energy that's outside of me that connects with, again, whatever you call it, God, source, universe, whatever that is. That's how I look at it. It is us at that outside of our ego.
Tell me about the word ego. I feel like it rules my world sometimes. This has been fascinating, and I personally appreciate all of your advice. And I want to end this interview like we end them all. So I'm going to ask you, fill in the blank. You're not getting any younger, so
You're not getting any younger, so just take one step toward the desire of your heart. It may be scary, but you will be okay and you will survive. And not taking the step towards your true heart's desire is essentially leaving the world without your greatness.
I love this. I got to tell you, I was been just so stressed all week, and talking to you has made me just feel such a sense of calm. It's just this weird sense of calm I feel like I just got in the last couple of minutes with you. So I appreciate all of this advice. Please tell our listeners where they can find out more about you and just everything you're up to.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure, and you're such a true light, and you made me calm. So thank you. So I'm really easy to find. It's Mari Roberts Life. So you can find my website. It's pretty simple, Mari Roberts Life. You can find me on Instagram. Come give me a follow, Mari Roberts Life. And definitely sign up for my newsletter. I send out a weekly newsletter. It's every Thursday. It's a little bit of love for you if you're looking for inspiration and a little bit of love. And if you come to my website, you can also find a wonderful guide on how to create your own mantra. And I'd love to invite you to download that little free gift. It really is simple, but during these times, creating your own mantra is fun, but it is also a great way to ground. So definitely do that.
Awesome. This was amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much.
Hey, you. Thank you for listening to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. There are hundreds of thousands of pods out there, so thank you for listening to this one. You can find the show notes for this week's episode up on our website, anyyounger.com. Subscribe, rate, and review the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast on iTunes so that other ears around the world can listen too. Oh, and join our secret You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group, where over 1,000 people are talking about how to disrupt their lives, for a good reason, to make it count. Until next week, all my love, Jen Glantz.